Hey guys, I'm Si and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show, and this is episode number 138. The show is live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, A.C.E Podcast Nation. Of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to that YouTube channel, still the most direct way to support us. Click the bell for notifications and you'll get a little text every time we go live or we produce or release new shows, and you can also keep up to date with upcoming guests and more on the social media pages. And if you want to keep it just football and just the AC show, you can follow at A.C.E Footy Show on all social media platforms. And if you prefer your podcasts in audio forms, words are all over the place, you can get them at your favourite radio or podcast platform. Just search A.C.E Podcast Nation, and there's over 430 shows on a variety of subjects with some incredible guests, some incredible co-hosts and alike. But just as we wait for the latecomers on the various platforms, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever for their support around the show and the channel. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages as well as their website, the links to which are in the description below, as well as the closing credits at the end of the show. As ever, today's show is sponsored by Bespoke Financial and Darren Ralston, and Darren Ralston is giving away a free will worth £140 at the moment with any new policy which is taken out. So please do check him out, give him a call and don't miss out on what is an incredible offer. He's looked after Andy with various policies over the years, including the critical illness and the injury cover. They are truly top of their field and provide award-winning service. We are proud to partner with such a top-class brand, and we thank them for sponsoring the show massively. And as I say, the award-winning service, not just a catchy tagline, they legitimately have won awards for their customer service. And as we come out of the COVID era, hopefully if you give them a ring, they can find a service or some cover which will help you and your families out. And that's what we're about, is helping the people. But first and foremost, introducing my co-host. He is the goal collector, the fox in the box, still the QPR dream killer, and still the king of the Millennium Stadium, Davy Jones' favourite son, ex-Cardiff City, Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend. I need to put my teeth in.
Good evening. Yeah, no, really excited for this one. I think just for today, I'll happily take away the goal collector because our guest certainly does know where the net is, by the way, or did know where the net is. I'm sure if you give him an opportunity now, he would certainly put the ball away. Really excited about our guest's career and digging deep because I think I've just got a feeling it's going to be a cracker. And thanks for everyone by the lovely comments, by the way. Gav, I love you too. What a lovely comment. You know what I mean? Like, he's got some lovely comments. You know what I mean? And by the way, if I've got a few bags under my eyes, I do apologise. I've not had a lot of sleep over the last couple of days, so if I look tired, just blame it on something. It's blame on kids. Don't have kids.
Blame it on the sunshine, as they say. But yeah, very excited to welcome tonight's guest. He's ex-Brentford, Reading, Gillingham, Sheffield United, Reading, Stoke City and Millwall striker Carl Asaba. Welcome, Carl. How are you, mate?
Hey, I'm all good, thanks. Nice to speak to you both.
Fab to come on, mate. I really appreciate it. You know what I mean? And when we're talking about goals, you know what I mean? I think people underestimate, Carl, don't they, how difficult that job is. You know, when people say goal scorer, natural goal scorer, you know what I mean? And people who know where the net is, it's a skill in itself, right?
Yeah, it's something, you know, everyone would like to score goals. They don't pay the top money for the transfer fees for goal scorers for no reason. It's an important part of the game, and you know, you need your teammates, but it's very, very nice that when you can find the net.
Totally agree. Couldn't have put it better. Craig, you don't have to be vicious. That's horrible comments. You know what I mean? It's building Carl up to like, but putting me down a little bit. Thank God. Just leave it on.
Yeah, just leave it on for the rest of the show. Demoted. Okay, got loads to talk about, and of course, Carl's got an incredible career to go through and relive a little bit as well. But there's some stuff that I'd like to talk about outside of that as well. As usual, mate, I've got plenty to say. But let's start.
As always.
Yes, and everyone will disagree with me, but I think it's just because they like you, because you scored that goal. If you hadn't scored that goal, they'd all agree with me. That's what I reckon. Anyway, that's what I tell myself when I go to sleep crying every night. But no. So we're going to start off, Carl. Magnificent 7, which is just 7 quick-fire questions, so the viewers can get to know you, get to know your tastes and whatnot. Get a bit of conversation starting. Let's go. Okay, Carl Asaba's Magnificent 7. Always nice and easy to start. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo. All day long. No, just
straight away. I agree, by the way. But Messi gets picked the majority of the time, but I think Ronaldo.
He can play.
Yeah, he's all right, I suppose, isn't he?
He's better than average, isn't he? Better than average.
Yeah.
He's like a second-rate Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll give him that much. But he's all right, isn't he? Favorite TV show?
Simpsons.
Oh, I love that. We haven't had that one. We haven't had that one, have we?
Like that one? No, I don't think we have. I like that. That's up there in my top selections. Gillingham or Sheffield United?
He's horrible.
I'm not answering that. You did. I'm not. I love them both. They both were great times for me. And
Carl, it's that smug look on his face because he knew that was coming. And to be fair, there's a few fireworks.
Go with Dolly Jam there.
Eased you in with a couple of nice easy ones, and then it's like poof. But you know what? That is the first time that anyone's refused to pick one out of when I've given.
7 minutes in, there's going to be a few more refusals.
I refuse.
Excellent.
I refuse.
Because I think like what I tend to do is I'll pick the 2 clubs which the person spent the most time at generally, unless there's there's a bit of sort of rivalry or hostility between the 2 particular clubs. But no, I respect it, mate. I respect it. I'm just nosy. That's what it comes down to. Is I just want to cause trouble and
But the thing, if you'd have picked one of the other there, Carl, is it gives us an avenue then to go down and go, oh, why?
You can't. All the teams that paid you to play for them, how can you actually turn around and say, "Oh, I didn't like them"? They were good enough to bring you to their team. So very bad question. So
I mean, it doesn't have to be that you don't like either one. It could be like you could base it on which type. Like, did you prefer your time at one club, or you did better for one club, or maybe you just hated one club?
Well, you need to specify this in the small print next time. So
the thing is, what happens is if I leave it really vague, is people can make their own decision then. So some people will go on, oh yeah, I scored loads of goals for that club, so I'll go with that one. Or I had a particular moment, or I fell out with a manager, Andy, at a particular club, which can often, that can sour stuff.
Do you know
sometimes.
What? I wouldn't know anyone.
No, that's it, mate. But okay, most hostile atmosphere you ever played a game of football in?
Millwall away. When I'm not even sure who I was playing for. Millwall away was hostile. Chelsea away was quite hostile in the cup quarter-final. But never felt endangered or anything like that. It's just they didn't want us to win, and they really didn't let us know.
Carl, was Millwall away any hostile than Millwall at home, playing for Millwall?
No, even driving through Millwall was hostile. Okay. It was tough. They're very passionate people, and they for me, I think they're there to vent and to just enjoy something and to win. And
I totally agree. Listen, I've said the same thing. It's the most hostile place and most intimidating place that I played football again football, and I was lucky enough to probably not to play at the old Den. You know what I mean? That the old Den looked a vicious place to play, but the new Den was. It's just people can move around and be spotted around the ground. But it's an intimidating place to play, but it keeps you going. No, great answer.
Yeah.
Did you ever play at Ninian Park, Carl?
Yeah, I did. I'm sure I did because. Yeah,
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I did.
Guys,
think you were getting promotion or something, and so they were happy. They were a happy bunch when we went down.
They were happy then.
Yeah.
Gaz says Upton Park was hostile, and Ninian Park was good back in the day as well. There.
Yeah, Upton Park was. Upton Park had its moments.
Had its
but
moments, didn't it?
Like Carl said there, you know what I mean. Fans are passionate, but even more probably hostile when the teams aren't doing very well, and that's probably what makes them more hostile. You know.
And also when we played at West Ham, West Ham. They were the bigger team, the better team, and I don't think they're as hostile when they're expecting a win. And their players, if they play to their level and we play to our level, they expect a win. And I just think, you know, when I went to Upton Park, we were I was playing for Reading, and they were expected to beat us, and it wasn't that hostile. And you know.
Next question is best manager you ever played for.
I've been really lucky. I had some great managers. Didn't get them all sacked, which is a bonus. Probably, well, it's Pulis. Tony Pulis is, I'll not hear a bad word said about him.
What's so special then, Carl? Because he was at Middlesbrough not so long ago, and I heard quite a few comments when he was manager about his style of play and things. Do you think that's a bit unjust with the stick that he gets in his style of football?
Well, he gets results. It depends where the club is and what periods that the club's in. For when I was with him at Gillingham, he was pushing on for promotion, and he gave everyone the belief. He picked a team where it was a team mentality. He didn't pick individuals who were tens, and all of us were pretty similar level, and we bonded. And he just gave total belief. Then, when I played for him again at Stoke, he just needed to make it solid, and he got one or two big players in the Adi Akinbayes who would take it to the next level. He knew what was needed to build and turn an unstable ship into, he'd ground the ship, and then he'll slowly take it onwards and never be easy to beat. Middlesbrough, it's my family, half my family are from up there. I know a lot of the inside stuff at Middlesbrough, and there's like they want the success really quick. I know it hasn't happened for a while.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's unfair because when a manager gets a job size sometimes, and Carl, obviously you know yourself that he can only work with players that he's got at his disposal, and you know what I mean. And I find that the players that he took over at Middlesbrough, they weren't his players. They didn't really play his style of football. So he's trying to develop a philosophy, a style of football to work with players who don't want to do that. So he's fighting a losing battle straight away because the players don't buy into it. The players don't buy into it. The fans don't buy into it. So how are you ever going to know if a manager is going to be successful unless he's given A, time, and B, players to fulfill what he wants to play.
How long would you say? I'd say it's 2 to 3 transfer windows for a manager, unless he's lucky. I follow Arsenal, and I think Arteta still needs another 2 or 3 transfer windows to get the people who buy into him and who actually play how he wants. You've got to give him time, or otherwise you're going to be in transition for 6 seasons, 7 seasons until the manager lucks into success because he won't have built it himself.
Totally agree. And Si's we've had this debate quite a long time, haven't we, Si? And we spoke about ways that could improve football management and give managers that little bit of a cushion that managers have a window. Clubs can't sack managers. Clubs have to hire in the summer.
I think that's brilliant.
So summer. And do you know what? I listened the first time, Si, and we disagreed, but the more I thought about it, I know this pains me to say, by the way, but the more I agreed with Si, and I thought it was a really good idea that managers need that option of 2 transfer windows: the summer to work with players pre-season, the January window, which gives them a chance to excel. And if you give them a full 12 months, minimum 12 months, then you'll see people turning things around. And even if you get relegated, teams might see something in you which they want to see in the next division to get promoted again. So give you that opportunity again.
I think that's brilliant. If you give them longer, then it's not going to be. I think the average age of signings will come down because if a lower league manager knows he's got 24 months, he can afford to play the youngster who might not be ready. Well, he knows if that man makes a mistake and costs me a goal, I'm not going to get sacked. Actually, I'll buy the 30-year-old who's been there, done it, he's not. I think it'll improve football and opportunities for younger lads. If a manager, why are they appointing the manager? Because he's good. So after 6 weeks, he's not bad. So stick with them.
100%.
Listen, I totally agree. I think this is amazing because it's going to help. I said it. It's going to help with the Wayne Roos's world. You know what I mean? Who won't worry about getting relegated because he's got some time on his hands because he's took over a sinking ship and it was been sinking for 2 years. So he's had to stabilise it. Now to stabilise it without getting time because you don't want to look over your shoulder and see a Steve McClaren as your director of football thinking he wants your job, or you're thinking you're the next person to get the sack. To read all these stories it sells, and I get that, and I get people need publicity, but it can have a negative impact on people, reputations. You know what I mean? And I don't like it. I want people to be given a chance to excel and see if they're any good.
100%. Just lastly on Tony Pulis, by the way, as well, I wanted to say, when you look at what he did at Stoke, he established them as a Premier League football club. I think he even got them into Europe at least once. But also, look at what's happened to them since they got rid of him because of the supposed perception of style of play and things like this. Like, they're back in the Championship now and not looking anytime soon like they're going to be going back up. Now, I'm not saying that's solely down to Tony Pulis, but I think what it does do is show what a good job he did to not just get him to the Premier League, but to keep him there season after season after season. And I think
the facilities he had, the people who are there now, that club, the facilities are insane. You go there, you're training on billiard tables, you've got the fitness studio, you've got everything you need. When we were there, we were getting changed at the ground. We're driving here. The pitch was a quagmire. He actually transferred, not him alone, but, with great administration upstairs and support upstairs, they transferred the club. The moment people start talking about style and forget what got you there, you're not Arsenal, you're not Real Madrid. You're out to win matches. You've got some of the most passionate fans in the country who, if you want to just play 50-50 tackles, they'll cheer you through the tackles. They don't need tippy-tappy football. Yeah. So I think, I'm really upset for Stoke because they have everything you need to maintain in the Premiership. And, I think could see Pugh going back there. They could do a lot worse, and they have done a lot worse.
I totally agree. Well, I think it's a final point for me on Tony that Sheffield Wednesday. Look at Sheffield Wednesday. The grass is always greener. He goes there. He's been given 8 games. He loses his job. They bring in a manager or two on the way, and they still go down. So who's the daftest?
He got sacked because he told the chairman exactly what needed to change.
But that club's needed that, Carl, for probably 2 or 3 seasons, and people don't like honesty, and people don't like people that to be told how to run things and how the foundations need to be brought in from bottom to top. And that club is a mess, and it's been proven. So Tony's points have just proved themselves. Unfortunately, it depends which way you look at it.
Yeah, definitely right. Let's finish this magnificent 7. Angriest teammate.
Well, the loveliest teammate and the angriest can be Addy. I've seen Addy switch. Addy Akinbaye, loveliest man in the world. I've seen those eyes glaze over, and I've seen him pick someone up in the tunnel, and it was like WWF. It was.
I wouldn't have liked to be on the end of that, by the way, because he was a big man.
It was completely justified. But he's the one. Half of the kit women could beat me up. It's not like that, but he's the one person I wouldn't want to cross in a bad way. It's channeling the anger.
Yeah, totally agree.
Cool. And the final question is, it doesn't have to be football related. It is, in your opinion, who is the greatest Englishman who's ever lived?
Jesus.
Such a broad question, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I have no idea. I can't. I'm not qualified to give that.
I like it. I would personally go with someone who could.
You'd go with me. You'd probably go with me.
Yeah, Andy Campbell. Yeah, absolutely. Andy Campbell,
Ben
Turner.
Not it.
Ben Turner's right up there, I think. Anthony Gerrard. All these heroes, but I think it's a difficult question, isn't it? And you get a different answer every time it's asked. because
I don't think we've doubled up, have we?
everyone's
Or no
inspired
answer
by
from me.
different stuff. Or yeah, you just get people that just refuse to answer as well.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, of course, the obvious answer, the right answer, should I say, is Dave Jones, but you know, Andy doesn't like it if we say that, so we've got to keep it quiet. Right.
No comment.
So,
Just check my Twitter.
indeed, still there, doesn't delete tweets.
No chance. Honest.
Um,
You put it out there.
Yeah, once it's on the internet, mate, it stays on the internet. It's
Yep.
just the way it is. That's what I tell my kids. So what we're going to do next is tell me why. So in this little segment, Carl, I ask you and Andy 2 questions, and basically you've got 60 seconds to discuss the subject of the question. Would you like to go first or second?
Second.
Straight there, innit? Straight there.
So,
I don't
Andy
know
Campbell.
them, by the way. Just I don't know them. Just
Yeah, Andy doesn't know
Carl doesn't
what's
know.
coming. So, we've talked about Cavani a lot on the Friday show recently after the European games. He scored a lot of goals recently. It was announced a couple of hours ago that he signed on for another year at United. I think that was kind of rumoured over the last couple of weeks. What I want to know, though, obviously we've talked about how good he is and the reasons why he's good. I want you to tell me about the impact and why it's a good thing for the players like Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, whoever, all the youth, the strikers, and just why him staying for that extra year is going to make a difference, or will it make a difference, in your opinion? So, Andy, your 60 seconds starts now.
I don't think it will make a difference in terms of making them, any better players than what they are. I think it's made the difference already. I look at Greenwood, I look at his performance levels, the way that he's turned into a proper player overnight. From probably the time to turn the start of the season. I look at Rashford. Yes, he's missed games with injury. Martial missed games with injury. But imagine having him as your focal point. He takes the pressure off you. He leads the line really well, and all the big games that Ollie plays and Ollie picks the team with, he always starts with him. When you look at the game yesterday against Villa, it wasn't a big game, so he puts him on the bench, he brings him on, but he still has an impact. Roma games, he starts him because he knows he's a big game player, and when you've got a big game player like that, and I can only compare him to probably players that I played with, and I'm on about like a Ravanelli type of player or a Boxes type of player, that these kind of players who have a bigger impact within the whole team, forget about themselves, and they're very unselfish, that yes, they're the focal point, but it leaves gaps for everybody else. And I see so many gaps for Greenwood, for Rashford, for Martial, for Fernandes, and all these players who are having optimal performances week in, week out. It's because of him.
Yeah, I think long term it could be part of the reason why Greenwood ends up being a central striker, or certainly helps him become a central striker, because he's already got the finishing side of things. But let's see what our guest Carl says. Carl, your 60 seconds starts now.
Well, obviously, he's to be at that level and that standard for so long. His off-the-field behaviour and his professionalism, I think, must be an outstanding example for them to follow. He's kept his body at peak performance, so they'll be able to see what his lifestyle is. And I think it's a great signing for off the field. On the pitch, he's great, but obviously I think his performances the returns they'll get are going to diminish, but he still has a presence. But I think off field, they may have one eye on having him in the coaching staff. What a person to have about. Ollie's got a young team around him. I'm not sure, if they're going to have a better striking coach who knows the individuals and knows the setup and can help improve it. He's been at all the big clubs. So, it could be a clever signing from Man U as a actual squad, a member of staff away from the pitch. So I think it's more that.
Yeah, I think that could be a good shout. I think ultimately it's going to make those young players, they like whether it's Greenwood or it's players in that youth team who train with the first team, they're gonna look at him, particularly the form he's been in this year, and they're going to look at the things he does. If they want to improve, they will at least. And you can learn so much of someone like that.
Do we still think they're going to buy in the summer, though? Do we still think they're going to?
No, I don't think they'll buy a striker now. I think they'll like I think I said on Friday. I think the plan was always going to be either sign him for another year, and then buy a centre back and a right winger, and then next year then they'll go and buy a striker. That's just my opinion, because I just think.
I think this was Harry Kane's chance to sign for United. Though I think this is his window. Yeah, I really
do think if he becomes available, though, they might change their tune.
Remember, they got caught short when Lukaku left. I think what a great backup. If they don't sign anyone, Cavani will do a job until the right person comes in the window. Yes. And instead of them, being made to pay top dollar, because everyone knows they're desperate for a striker, takes the pressure off the scouting.
I totally agree.
And great point. If people know you want that striker, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's important as well, because I think sometimes we forget about Corby, don't we? That it's hit teams, and it's hit United the same as it's hit Norwich City, for example. You know what I mean? So I think we've got to put things into perspective, that we think that money's available. Yes, it will be available, because Man United are the biggest club in the world, and they can find whatever they want to find if they want to find it. But when you've got somebody like that, and if it's not broke, why fix it? But if a player comes available like Harry, if he comes available after the summer and it's at a price which becomes appealing, then Man United will snap their hands off.
And Cavani doesn't seem the sort of player, if Kane signs and he's not playing every week, he's going to cause a fuss. He knows he's in the twilight of his career. He'll add when he's needed. I think it's a shrewd, easy sign. Not an easy, it'll be expensive, but it does what they need.
But I think that'll help Harry as well, though, guys, because I think, personally for me, I think he plays a lot of football. I think he plays too much football, and I think he plays every minute of every game. And I think sometimes bring him out for a game, and you get better performances the next game or the following week. And look at Cavani, you know what I mean? He looks so fresh every time he's playing. He looks like he's playing enough football, enough minutes. Because that's the medical department. Everybody within the football club has just got that spot on for him, and you know what I mean. It's progressing his career for longer and longer and longer. So if that can do with that for another player, then everyone's a winner.
Right.
I just want to ask you a quick follow-up question, which has just sprung to mind. I read an article by Alan Shearer earlier on, and he was saying almost that the traditional number 9 is not necessarily a fashionable position at the moment. And when you look at what Ronaldo and Messi have been able to achieve, playing as that kind of striker who play, a forward who plays on the right, on the left, just behind, centrally, wherever, people do, United and United fans seem keen to make Greenwood a number 9, or make Rashford a number 9, or Martial a number 9, whereas he was basically saying they don't necessarily have to do that to be, to succeed and be successful with United. Would you agree with that? Obviously, you're both forwards, that maybe the number 9 position is not as important as what it once was.
Well, I think that's disrespectful, because I think if you're a Man City, you can play with a false 9 because of the ability they've got between the four of them. I don't think I could personally play 9 now. You know what I mean? I think if football was as it is now, back when I played, I think I would have to sacrifice playing wide or playing deeper to run in behind with pace, because I don't think I have the physical presence enough to be able to match some of the defenders in 2021. I think that, you know what I mean, they're all built really well, they're strong. And I'm not saying the fullbacks are weak, but I think my running in behind and being clever with runs, I think, would be different. But it's very rare you see one ball over the top beating teams. It's always balls into feet and clever play. And I think I would have had a bigger impact, where you look at Carl was a far different player than I was. You know what I mean? So when you've got strength and you've got pace, you can bolt them all together. Where I found that really difficult to do as a player. I always found a bigger player target man as my ideal partner, because I got the joy out of doing what I would do, but I hated doing what someone else would do. So when it was 4-5-1, for example, and I knew it was going to be a long day, I knew I wouldn't get many chances, I knew I'd be the battering ram, and I'd come off after an hour, and then someone else would go and get a goal because I'd run people into the ground, for example. It was frustrating. I didn't like it.
Well, I think it's completely down to the style of play of the team.
Yeah.
There's no point having a central striker, a battering ram, a Lukaku playing up the middle for Man City, if they can play tippy-tappy around the midfield and go, the central number 9 striker is only needed for a certain style of football. Otherwise, you just need a technical person who can link it up. And Harry Kane is a central striker who's going to feed off crosses and get in behind. He'll do great for Man U. But they play that football. They've got Martial and they've got the wingers who can provide crosses. If you aren't playing with the wingers, then you don't need the central striker. It's all down to to the style of play.
Yeah, I totally agree. I look at Man City and I look at the way that they play, and the play is so intricate stuff. It's just a joy to watch because
why do you need a striker?
You wouldn't know who the striker is.
If you've got 10 and 11 people behind the ball who can pass the ball through you, they're gaining an extra defender by not playing a striker. They're still good enough to go through you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it bamboozles, doesn't it? Because if you're watching the game and you're doing a report on Man City, who do you say plays where? Because you see Foden on the left, then you see him behind on the right, then you see him playing left back, then you see him playing right wing, right back, and you've got Zinchenko bombing on, and you've got all these other players. I just think it's just phenomenal the way that he's put these methods into practice. It's just absolutely amazing.
The players are that good. They play FIFA football. We all see the pass. We all see where it needs to go, but they can pass it as hard as they like, knowing the other person's going to control it and then pay them. You can't combat that. Arsenal try it.
It's trust as well. Yeah.
Has a missed touch. Man City rarely miss touch. They're brilliant players. And I hate...
Go on.
No, Man City, I despise them. But they're brilliant. As a club, I don't like them, but the players and what Pep have done, it's the best I've seen.
Yeah, they are top tier at the moment. It's interesting
and they'll go to
because
another level as well, by the way. They'll go to the next level as well.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating, and one of the few things I like about football at the moment, is you could have Man City playing with no number 9 and looking superb, whereas then you've got a United across Manchester, the nearest team to them in the league, playing with a 9, and when they haven't got Cavani playing, they do not look the same side. So it's almost like they need that number 9 to play off and to run in behind and for the other players to get the space they need and to create the chances.
But I think that's certain sides are saying it. You know what I mean? Look at Liverpool.
Tactically, isn't it? It's the way they play.
Liverpool, when they were successful 2 years ago, they needed Firmino, Salah and Mane. They had to have all three in the same team to be successful. Yes. And then when one didn't play, they really struggled because the other two were starved of service. So then they're getting them back. They're playing them when they're not fit. They're playing them out of form, and it just didn't work. And the results didn't lie. You know what I mean? And sometimes you need that plan B. Man City got that plan B. They could play with the centre forward in Aguero. They can play with Jesus. They could play with somebody else. They could go and buy Haaland, for example. But why fix it if it's not broken? Why it'll affect them in a bigger way with the way that they play. For example, you know what I mean? They've got themselves to a Champions League final. They're going to win the league next week. They've already won a cup. It's a joy to watch. You know what I mean? I'm not a Man City fan, but I love watching good football. I used to love Barcelona. I used to love Bayern Munich, and the correlation is a manager, and the managers put these things in place. And when a manager leaves, the clubs change their philosophy of playing. Look at Barcelona. Barcelona don't pass as much as they used to. You know what I mean? They go a little bit more direct. And they haven't got a direct player to play, but the managers have different styles. Koeman's got a different style to Pep. And it's just so obvious. But that's just football. It's great.
Yeah.
Superb. So the second subject is at the other end of the Premier League table. Sam Allardyce was relegated from the Premier League for the first time with West Bromwich Albion.
Great record. Great record.
And I would like to discuss, should they stick with him? Should he stick with them? And why? And where maybe you see him going if he doesn't stay, what they should do. I'm just very interested in that. Obviously, we watched West Brom a lot in the Championship last year, Andy. Carl, did you want to go second again, or did you want to go first?
Yeah. I'll go second now.
So, Andy, Sam Allardyce, 60 seconds. Let's go!
Listen, I'm very lucky. Sam's ex-manager of mine. I think he's an amazing manager as well. He's brought a lot of things to football. I don't blame him for what's happened this year. I think the club made a bad decision in getting rid of the manager, in my personal opinion. Should have given him more time to put his philosophy in place. Sam got the job. I think Sam's done a half a decent job, to be honest, since he's gone in. He's brought in a centre forward, a target man like Sam likes and needs. He's had some big results. But listen, it was just a jump too far. You know what I mean? For me, and the Arsenal game yesterday was just the final nail in the coffin for the club. And for me personally, I'd stay if I was him, because I think he needs to stay in football. I think if he leaves, he's always going to be remembered for getting relegated, because that's the first time it's happened. But he'll be remembered for getting West Bromwich Albion back in the Premier League and keeping them in the Premier League within a 3-year contract, for example. So for me, the club needs him to stay, and he needs to stay within football, because the football needs Sam Allardyce, regardless of what people think of him. I'm right about Tony Pulis. Sam's in the same mould, old school managers, as his way of playing, but football needs him.
And that's 60 seconds. Good shout, mate. And then, Carl, what are you saying? Sam Allardyce, 60 seconds. Go.
I think it's his decision. If you're West Brom, why would you want to get rid of a manager who has steadied the ship and he knows the players, he knows what's needed, he knows how to get the best out of these players. So the easiest route for them the smallest chance is to stick with that manager. You bring in a new manager, you might want to make wholesale changes. Allardyce will know the pros and cons of each player, and he doesn't have to evaluate anymore. A new manager does. You stick with Sam, he knows how to get promoted, he knows how to get the best, and he is desperate to end his career on a high. You've got a highly motivated manager who knows the game inside out. You stick with him.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that.
So put kids comment up about Pereira, because Sam did an interview after the game yesterday about the same question. So I don't know if the viewers watched it. I don't know if you've seen the interviews, Carl, after.
I haven't seen that.
Sam got asked that question. Said, "Will you be able to keep Pereira here next year?" And he was very honest, and I loved his honesty. He just turned around and he said, "I've got no chance, because he's a Premier League footballer, and we're not in the Premier League anymore." And football deserves honesty. Football needs honesty. Needs honest men. Players need honest men. You know, as a footballer, all you want is honesty. You want your manager to be honest with you as a player, because players want to play at the highest level they can. And somebody like Pereira has taken, and he ripped the championship up, by the way, 2 years ago. He was I think he was my highlight of the week every week. He was player of the year. He scored goals. He came from a foreign country, and he's deserved this opportunity. And he's had a good season. So for me, Sam's honest. Sam knows, you know what I mean, and he knows he's going to get a decent amount of money for him if he stays, which will help his budget.
Rebuild.
Yeah, it'll help his rebuild. He'll be able to buy players from it, because Sam knows that he can probably bring in 3 or 4 players with the money that he gets in from that one player, and that's massive for Sam. Be huge for him.
And it's a good incentive for the other players to see if you do well. We're not going to stand in your way. You know, if the right bid comes in, you'll be able to move if it's right, and that's great for all parties if he goes.
Yeah, totally agree, Carl.
Yeah, 100%. Reece makes an interesting point about Sam Allardyce. I'll just put that up because that kind of good. He said they had a very poor transfer window, and Big Sam was vocal about it. He might not be happy to stay and work with the board if that's the case. And I think there is that as well in there.
He bought the Galatasaray centre forward. He bought Robert Snodgrass. He brought in a goalkeeper from. He bought a goalkeeper from Liverpool. Listen, you know what I mean. He probably needed 6, 7, 8, 9 players, but clubs were never going to be able to spend that kind of money with COVID around. You know what I mean? They've got no fans coming in. You know what I mean? He wasn't happy. He's frustrated because he knew the positions he needed to fill, and he had to fill them with players who weren't his kind of players. And you know what I mean? Look at some of the goals they've given away. Overplaying at the back. That's not Sam Allardyce's team. You know what I mean? Making individual errors, letting goals in from set pieces. They're not Sam's kind of mistakes. You know what I mean? Sam's kind of mistakes are this team not playing very well. You know what I mean? Just not turning up, as a one-off, but not some of the goals they're giving away. You know what I mean? Sam's not a let's play out from the back. You know what I mean? He knows his limitations. You know what I mean? He's got a very good goalkeeper in goal in Sam Johnson, and you know what I mean? He doesn't want to be making mistakes. You know? So.
I think Sam holds all the chips personally. West Brom are a great team, and they're a great club, but I think they need Sam to stay for another year more than he needs to stay for a year. Totally I think their chances of going back up are so much higher with him at the helm.
Totally agree. But when we're talking about him staying next year, what's the point? If he's out of contract this year, if it was a short-term deal, I'm not sure. Give him a 2-year contract, because his incentive then is to get in the Premier League and stay in the Premier League, and that's the incentive. That's the incentive. Don't say we'll give you a year's contract to get in the Premier League, because Sam will leave then, and he'll go somewhere else. He'll go to China. He'll go to America. He'll go somewhere else, because that's the incentive.
Sign players that aren't just going to get you promoted, that you're going to stick your hat on, who are going to keep your reputation in the Premiership intact. Yeah.
Totally agree. Because as a player, if you're signing for a club on a 3-year contract and your manager's only there for a year, then who's coming in? Does the manager like you? Are you gonna leave? You have to leave again. It's so unstable. Football's so unstable at times, and you need the consistency, you need the continuity, and clubs need to understand this very, very quickly. And I don't get it why they don't get it, because it's a business, and that's how businesses work. Surely.
100%, mate. I couldn't agree more. What about that? Guys asked, is Pereira a top 4 player? So is he good enough to play for the kind of, I'd say, let's open it up to the top 6 clubs in the Premier League. Is he good enough to play for those?
Has he done it Has he done it against the top 6 teams? He did it against Chelsea.
I'm not 100% sure.
He did it against Chelsea when they beat them 5-2. He's done it against Spurs. I thought he did it against Arsenal yesterday. He did it against Arsenal yesterday. So
lift his standard.
Do I think he'll play week in, week out at a top 6 club? No, but listen, run about a very effective top player. So for me, I'd have him in my squad, 100%.
Here's a question for you then, seeing as it was Gaz who asked the question. If West Ham cannot sign Jesse Lingard on a permanent deal or another loan, whatever it may be, would Pereira be a good replacement for Jesse Lingard?
For Jesse?
For West Ham?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And if they're in Europe,
do you think he's better than Jesse Lingard?
He's probably more consistent, and I'm on about the last 2 years. Jesse's had a great 6 months, by the way, in the end of his loan spell. If he can keep this going, he's going to go to the Euros. He's going to make a name for himself. He's going to be back then to where Jesse needs to be. But listen, Pereira, I'm on about consistency. Pereira ripped the Championship up in the first year. He's done it in the Premier League, so it wasn't just a fluke. You know what I mean? We're on about players who can make that jump up. We're on about the Ollie Watkins. We're on about the Pereiras. We're on about other players. These players have proved that they can do it. That the jump from the Premier League, from the Championship to the Prem, is massive, but still, players can still do it.
Yeah, I agree, mate. 100%. Okay, I want to throw to a few questions we had earlier on. So I'm just going to scroll all the way back up to 10 to 8.
I've seen a good one.
So I got a couple I want to go to. We had Dent Norwich asked,
yeah.
Do you regret, Carl, do you regret not playing for Norwich City?
Well, I never had the option to play for them, so I don't think you miss what you never had. I enjoyed scoring a penalty in front of their cop with my first touch, coming on as sub. That was one of my highlights of my career. Great ground. I went and watched the match at Carrow Road when I was about 12. Everton. Kevin Sheedy played against Norwich and hit the crossbar. Really great game.
On memorable moments, Joe Turpin Antonio says, was your 7-minute hat-trick for Brentford versus Shrewsbury the best and most memorable hat-trick that you've scored?
No, it was I enjoyed that left foot, right foot header.
Wow.
At Gay Meadow, the old Gay Meadow. But my most memorable hat-trick was Boxing Day against my old season ticket holding Crystal Palace. My whole family were there. And it was against my team, and I supported when I was a kid, and it was a special one.
Did you celebrate all 3 goals, Carl?
Damn right.
2 right. Fair play to you. Fair play to you. Just on that one though, side, the 7-minute hat trick one. So intrigue. So talk us through the 7 minutes. So obviously the first goal goes in, and then 7 minutes later you got your 3 goals. So you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's like after you score, it's getting yourself back in the game again, isn't it? It's you know what I mean, trying to get your next touch or trying to do something good and getting your second win. So
I got destroyed, Andy. I went into the dressing room thinking I was going to get big hugs and everything, and I'm not joking. Dave Webb almost reduced me to tears because I was running around going left foot, right foot, head, to the tune of longer. I'm doing that, and he, and I mean this, battered me. He said, this shows you're still a kid and you've got no sense, because you could have got 6 or 7 goals. The whole world would have been asking for your autograph, but you were happy with 3. You thought you'd done it. You're flicking and tricking. Oh my! I'm trying not to look at my teammates because they're, I am close to whimpering, and they're peeing themselves. And a few years later, I played away at Burnley for Gillingham. Robert Taylor, who was my strike partner in that match for Brentford, he scored 5. He was on I think he was on Good Morning Bloody Sunday. Songs of praise, anything, he was on it because he was the ultimate professional. He got 3, wanted 4. Got 4, wanted 5. But that, I learned a lot in that match. So it wasn't a memory of the balls in the room next door. I've got the ball there, but the Shrewsbury hat trick is a painful hat trick.
I like that, and you know what though? That's it's great stories to have. Though. It's great memories to have, though. You know what I mean? Because people think that those memories are always positive memories. So to hear that the memory was turned into a negative one by a comment or by someone wanting
not really negative. It was more constructive. That look,
Good,
until
high standards.
until the final minute the whistle goes, you're there to score goals. So no matter what you've done for the previous 89 minutes, you want to get the next goal, and it taught me a lot.
That's great. Great story. Great story. And just on Taylor, what a strike partner. What a player to play. I know we're gonna talk about Gillingham because we had an ex-teammate of yours on a couple of weeks back, Nicky Southall. Nicky's what a funny guy.
The monkey hanger from Teesside Aggro.
Listen. I've never laughed so much on a show. He had me in creases by the end of it. I just couldn't.
He glued his hubcaps on because he was sick of them being stolen, and he had a punt on the M1. What a boy!
Does that one, mate? Just ironing his shirt when he's got it on. Nicky, if you're watching, by the way, sorry, I just.
He's the loveliest guy, and he's telling you this, laughing at himself, and you think this isn't true, and then it really is.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
It's
Outstanding.
Carl, Donna Perry asked, where do you think it all went wrong for Sheffield United this season after they had such a strong season last year?
Well, I think, Sheffield is one of the clubs that every team is affected by the fans. You don't play away at Old Trafford and have an easy match. When there's 70,000 there, you don't go and beat 11 players plus the 70 easy. Now, Sheffield, that is an intimidating place to play. If you're an individual who is affected by external noises, your performance, for me, it was brilliant because I loved the atmosphere. It got me going, and I performed much better in front of a big, passionate crowd like Blades than I did in a Reading where they're not as vocal. They're not as geared up for the match. They're there to watch a game of football, whereas the Blades, they're kicking every ball, they're screaming everything. And I think that was a massive, massive loss for Sheffield because you're taking away the intimidation, and it then lets really good players just settle into the game. I think there's a lot of players last season who've gone from championship clubs to the Premiership clubs, and they perform really well. The Ollie Watkins, great player, but he's able to go from playing in front of 20,000 a week, where it's intimidating, to playing away at Man U, where there'd be 70,000, but he's not had to deal with the hostility and the pressure. So I think that the crowd missing has really affected football. And teams like Sheffield, where the fans are so passionate, have really suffered. It was a fortress. You go there. I saw Liverpool play Sheffield the year before with Henderson, and he made one error. But they looked shocked. They were rushed on the ball because the atmosphere was so hostile. And you take that away from the Blades, and it's a lot easier proposition.
I totally agree. We've said this on the show as well, and I'll probably go one step further as well. That when Sheffield United playing away, that Chrissy Wilder he thrived on shutting up supporters, and his team was stubborn, and they made sure that they did the job in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes. Where now they're so open because there's no pressure on players. Carl's just said it there. The players are going into the games with no pressure. They're starting the game very well. Sheffield United are trying to stay in the game, and all of a sudden they're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, and like they were on the weekend against Crystal Palace, and they're fighting the battle straight away. That I'm same as Carl. I played at Bramall Lane, and I was there for good 12 games on loan. And listen, when the cop's there and when it's a full crowd behind the goal, they can suck the ball in the goal. I know that people think we're over exaggerating, but there's certain grounds which have just a way of generating an atmosphere, and that was one of those stadiums that, even when it's not full, people are intimidated to go and play there because the fans get that noisy behind them, and it's not about the Steel City, because that's what every time I've been there, played against them, played for them. Fans demand you run through a brick wall. I know every place should do that.
That was one of the reasons I signed. There's a few grounds, stadium. I played in the first match at the Stadium of Light, and I was playing for Reading, and the noise was incredible. The fans were so passionate, and you didn't actually stop jogging for a minute because it was so, it was so charged, and that's what Bramall Lane was like. And I think the football, the fans and the players are really going to start clapping those fans a lot more before the match, because I think we appreciate how important they are to our game.
I totally agree. But then, Carl, I'm gonna throw a question at you then as well. So me and Si had this debate or a answer about somebody like Greenwood, for example. So how well he's done. So he's done well this season with zero pressure. He's not had the crowd when he's made a mistake. He's not had the crowd noise when he's missed a chance, for example. So how will players respond to the negative side of it? So will some players crumble under the pressure as well as some people thriving off it as well?
Well, of course, but you have to be a sports psychologist to find out, that's half of the bit of football. A person can have incredible attributes with the ball. We had a guy at Sheffield United called Lawrence Tens Hoyville, striker from Holland. The most incredible technique you've seen. In training, he embarrassed us all. Put him in front of the Blades fans, he went into a shell. But you can't tell that when you're looking at him in Dutch league where he's playing in front of 5,000 and 6,000. The Greenwoods, you'd expect an attacking player to really thrive in front of 70. People cheering you when you go past someone. You want the ball again as quick as possible to do it again. So I think we'll see the attacking players will be much more positive with the fan. That's how I feel, because they want the cheers and the acclaim. But as you say, on the flip side, when there's no fans there, when you actually try and go past someone and fail, you don't get the negativity of the size. When you can feel the air sucked out when you've tried a shot and it's not. So that's why we love football. I love football for going to the ground and you experience the noise and the atmosphere, not to necessarily see 30 great passes technically done brilliant. I want to see the thrust and the excitement of it all.
Do you think we'll see? A difference in the way that fans are with players as well, then, Carl? You know what I mean? Because they've missed the games just as much, and you know what I mean. We've spoke to a few on here. We had a fan show, and we spoke about sometimes about being negative all the time, about your frustrations, that you work all week and you take your frustrations out on football because you're passionate about your team. But sometimes fans can go a little bit too far, and I feel as though fans are going to be really positive. I feel as though they're going to turn up. I feel as though they're going to support and run through a brick wall for the players as well. So I think the players are going to benefit. The clubs are going to benefit because fans are going to come and they're going to spend the money and they're going to put the money back into the clubs. And
I think it'll be much more.
I think it'll be great. I think the atmospheres are going to be absolutely amazing once fans are coming.
They're
back.
going to be more positive for their own team, and they're going to be even more negative for the away opposing team, because they now know that everyone's telling you, the players are telling you, we missed the fans. Oh, it was easy going to Man City playing away when there's no fans screaming at you. So the Man City fans are going to be screaming at you, the opposing teams. It's going to be brilliant. A lot of red cards. There'll be a lot of red cards because people are going to be intimidated to do rash things.
I totally agree, and just that someone like and I'll pick him out, Phil Foden. You know what I mean, Phil Foden. You know what I mean, that scoring a goal. You know what I mean, he's had such a good season. You know what I mean, that the next time he scores at the City of Manchester Stadium, for example, you know what I mean, the score in front of 50,000, it'll be amazing. Same as Greenwood, same as Cavani. You can go on.
Cavani's played a year for United, and he's never played in front of fans at Old Trafford.
I know.
Which is mad,
but the fans are gonna love him, though. So
of course.
It's going to be fantastic. Carl, I've got a personal question. I've been sent it through one of our messenger sites. It's a family joke, so I'm gonna read it out. So it's from someone called Jill Whelan, and she has asked. Oh God. Right, so could you ask Carl how the oak trees are in Boro? It's a family joke from his family in Middlesbrough.
Okay, that's my cousin Jill, husband Mark Whelan. He's a scourge of the family. I made a pact. They're all Boro. I said, look, I'm going to be nice. We had a family wedding out in France, and they destroyed me. And Mark said he was the oak tree, and he started, because he didn't fall, whereas I was like Bambi everywhere, completely mad. And he was singing the entire yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. So, yeah, great. Well done, Billy. Well done.
Carl, all I can do is just say, if you want to get any more questions, please send them in.
Yeah, absolutely. Gavin asked earlier on, Carl, he said, how did you get into football? And also, do you have any other family members within the game?
Well, I was playing when I was 15. I was doing okay, and as it's been throughout my career, I pick up injuries, and I lost focus on my education. And my dad, I got selected for England schools. I got injured the week before, and I couldn't go and play against Scotland, and I was devastated. I ended up failing my GCSEs, and my dad stopped me playing football. Because that's it, 2 years, you get your A-levels, go to university, then once you've got the bit of paper, you do what you like. But I'm not having, because, we live for football. If I got injured and I couldn't play, my whole world was turned upside down. So he just stopped it. And I was lucky, when I was at university, I was allowed to play non-league. I was playing for Dulwich Hamlet. Scored a few goals in 12. I think I played 12 games for Dulwich Hamlet towards the end of the season. I got offered a trial at Crystal Palace or a contract at Brentford. It was a tough one because, I was a season ticket holder at Palace, and it would have been my dream. But I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to wake up each morning and go and kick a ball as my job and improve. So, for very, very little money, it wasn't about the money. I signed for Brentford, and it was the best thing I've ever done.
Just listen to that story, though, Carl. It's like a breath of fresh air, and it's amazing that you see a lot of players. I know a lot of players who are semi-professional footballers who've got so much ability. They get an opportunity to get in professional football and they don't take that opportunity. And I've said, listen, it's such a short career, it's such a short window, and an opportunity to go and give it a go. You know what I mean? You can always fall back on that opportunity. You can always fall back on the qualifications that you've earned. You know what I mean? Because no one will ever hold it against you for giving it a go as a professional footballer. You know what I mean? Whereas if you don't, the regret is going to be such a regret.
I was never a great technical player, but I had so many friends around me who were, when I was 15 and 16, was far better than me. And to think if they would have had the chance to be professional, they would have taken it, because a lot of them, they decided, well, we can earn more money doing this. I want to go out at the weekend. I want to do, how good they could have become training day in, day out, and their fitness, the first couple of weeks or months of me being a professional footballer, my body was shot. I was a fit boy as it was, semi-pro. As a 21-year-old, I was fit. I was training in the morning with Brentford. I was going home. I was at home at 1:30, completely gone. I'd wake up at 5 because your body wasn't ready for it, and you become so much fitter. These players, they could have, it would have been exciting to see what they would have become.
Listen, I totally agree, and I keep on reminding people of that opportunity, and you've got to give yourself that chance to be successful. You know what I mean? Because you just don't know the opportunity that you could turn down. You know that there's bigger than the UK. You know what I mean? There's clubs in Scandinavia, there's clubs in Scotland, there's clubs in Wales. You know what I mean? There's people who you can play in the Champions League in Welsh in the Welsh League, for example. There's loads of opportunities at different levels, which people, for me, just need to explore and see what's out there, because there's a big world in football. You know what I mean? And some of the memories you can make is, listen, you know what I mean? And like you just said there, it's not about money. You know what I mean? That if the money and you get an opportunity to get a big contract, listen, take it. I'm not saying don't take it. What I'm saying is you play football because of the love and the enjoyment and just how fun it is. It's amazing.
Those chances abroad, I think, are more accessible than ever as well, aren't they? Like, there's a lot of British players going abroad when they're, hitting 18. They're not maybe getting the first team opportunities in the Premier League or the Championship, and they're going elsewhere, Germany or Italy or Spain. Like, you look at Jadon Sancho, couldn't get in the Man City side. He's going to go in the summer for, at the very least, sort of 70, 80 million. He's completely kick-started his career by gambling on himself, and gambling that instead of staying at Man City and maybe getting the odd game here and there, I'm going to go and play for Borussia Dortmund, play Champions League football, play in the Bundesliga, and I'm going to play week in, week out and show everyone what I can do.
Yeah, but that's because of the infrastructure in the UK. That's because of the money that the Premier, everyone who moans that there's no money, grassroots, there's no, because our football academies now are producing incredible players that are better than first team adults in other countries. The opportunities overseas were not as prevalent for me and for Andy because we didn't have the facilities. We weren't all technically brilliant because we didn't have the coaches. We weren't able to have the technical ability of the Dutch. But now our youngsters, because of the money in English football, we've got the best facilities. So we're making great players that we may not see now, but they're able to go and succeed abroad. So, I think there's a lot of thanks that should be given to the money that comes into these clubs that enable the English players and the British kids to be better than the foreign, the foreign 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds and take their jobs. If you look at it that way, our players are going to play in these national leagues and their national teams will suffer the way our national team used to suffer. So we're really lucky.
I totally agree, and it's you go back to our day. We didn't have big squads. You talk about now Premier League squads having 25-man squads. We were lucky if you had 22 men involved in the squad. At the start of the season. So and that was including some youth team players as well. So you always knew you were going to get an opportunity if that was in the first game of the season or the sixth game.
Any of your youth team players from Boro ever go and sign for Stuttgart in their first team? Did they go from the youth team? Our infrastructure now is incredible.
Yeah.
We're really lucky.
Yeah.
Did either of you two ever get a move or get offered a move abroad anywhere? Andy,
I got offered. Yeah, it was an opportunity when I left Cardiff to. It was Den Haag in Holland. There was an opportunity to go there for a 6-month contract to finish the season off because obviously I was told that I was not needed at Cardiff, and then obviously Dunfermline came in Scotland, and because my young family and I wanted to base myself back up north. It was a no-brainer really. It was down to a family decision. It wasn't a football one, and I would never say I've got any regrets in football, but I would have liked to probably see what the world had. You know what I mean? To see if the football, because it was a little bit slower in Holland. I'd seen videos. I went over to speak to them and watch training. It did look a little bit technical, but probably scared me a little bit because Carl's just said there that we weren't technical as good as they were. You know what I mean? That yes, we had our attributes and we were good at what we did, but they just used to keep the ball. You know what I mean? That the way that I played, it was more balls over the top and stuff and things and getting the ball wide and using my pace. But listen, I would have, if I could turn the clock back, would I do it different? I'd probably say no because I ended up playing in the cup final in the 6 months I was at Dunfermline as well. So I was quite content and happy that things happen for a reason. You make the decisions, you live and die by those decisions, and football's great, but that you get those opportunities. And I would have probably regretted more if I didn't have those two opportunities. That, you know what I mean? I'm glad that people give you those chances sometimes.
What about you, Carl? Did you ever get any offers to go abroad anywhere?
No, countries didn't even let me holidaying over didn't want to pay me to play there. No, I think a couple of the residents where I lived in Sheffield when I came there, they tried to get me deported, but that's about the extent. Nigel and Ben, few dodgy stories trying to get me out.
Will asks you, Carl, he says, why did you have so many moves? Surprised clubs let you go with the scoring record that you had?
I got injured a lot and there were better players. I went to certain clubs. Reading was a bad time for the club and for me. It was a wrong club at the wrong time for my career. I was young, I was a record signing, but I wasn't really what they needed. They needed an experienced person and then a real overhaul. I was just making the problem worse, really. But other clubs, I spent 3 years at most of the clubs, 3 years at Brentford, 3 years at Gillingham. It was part of a plan. Stoke was to settle down and then they were going to kick on. So once there was stability at Stoke, it was time for me to go for them to build on better strikers. So I was like a glorified, a journeyman. I was always to fit a hole. I wasn't the final, the ultimate piece of the jigsaw. I was stepping stone to the ultimate piece.
You always had you've got a phenomenal scoring record, so it's kind of it's interesting to me that like you did get so many moves, but then equally there's another way to look at that, is that a lot of clubs wanted you to play football for them as well. With the Reading one, I know a few people have asked, or a couple of people asked throughout a bit earlier on. I can't remember who it was, so I'm sorry about that. But they asked about when you're a record signing for a club, does that bring more pressure to hit the ground running, or to to score goals or whatever it may be?
Not really. I did. I hit the ground running. It was fine. It was going well. It was just the club had bigger problems. I'd been in football to play football. I never knew about earning enough money to sort of look after your future. At Reading, there were people on a lot of money, and they were trying to extend keeping themselves earning a lot of money. So they wanted to look good on the pitch. Happy for it to be someone that give the ball to him, so it's his problem, not give the ball to him to score. No, they just wanted to not be the problem, not be the focal point. That's how I felt. Whereas at Brentford, everybody was in it. You did everything you could for your teammates because you wanted to win, and you succeed by the team winning. Reading was my real introduction to professional careers, where people just wanted another 2 years earning a lot of money.
Well, that's why it doesn't make a successful group team. You know what I mean? Having individuals terrible. It's just a bad way to run a football.
And they're lovely lads.
It's such a shame.
There's some great players, people who went on to have incredible careers. Limvoy Primus. You have great players there.
Yeah.
But if it's not a team ethic, if it's about, well, when the ball comes to me, I'm going to look good, or I'm not going to look bad, which was most of the thing. He's done worse than me. The bit that got me the most was if I'd shoot and it didn't go in, there was teammates making like gesticulations to get the home fans against me to distract from them being part of the team that were playing crap. Let's all have a go at him, so I've got a chance of not getting there. It was horrible.
Rob is baying for you to name and shame.
Just people who didn't last very long. And like Tommy Burns was a great man. Really, really, it was him who told me he was going to sell me because I was the person they can get money for. But he knew there was some horrible elements in that club, and it was unfair. You had a manager, Terry Bullivant. It was his first managerial post, and I couldn't imagine him of actually getting a worse team of individuals to have his first job with, because I've bet some incredible players. Even Ray Houghton was there. I love Ray. You had some great people, but if you've got a team of people who aren't pulling in the same direction, it's impossible, and that's what they had. You had a great chairman. John Matejski's a great chairman. You had the facilities, you had coaches, Alan Pardew, Brendan Rodgers, everyone was there. I'm grateful, Alan Pardew is one of my close friends. The man's been incredible to me. He was there, and it was just, we used to talk about how he knew. That's why he made such a success of his role in Reading, because he knew what people shouldn't be there and who to get in. It was a tough old place.
Which is not nice to hear, Si. Everyone has the struggles and things, and your honesty, Carl, is absolutely superb. I'm gonna turn it on full circle now. So I'm gonna look at the positive, and obviously we've had a few guests who've had some really good times at football clubs, and this one special club in particular to people seems to be Gillingham. And my question to you is, what is so special about it? Because everybody who seems to play for Gillingham seems to have no bad word to say about the area, no bad say about the football club. The owners, the chairman, the players, the managers who were in place at the time. What's so special about it?
It's, when you were 14 and you played for your local club, and it was it's that mentality. They're proud of that club, whether they're in the conference, in championship, that's their club. And they rally there together, and they're there to support those players, because all those fans would want to be in one of those shirts. And the fact that you're in it means you've got the chance ahead of them. So they respect that you're going to do a better job than they can. I don't know if that makes sense, but they only want their team to win. They'd like to be in the shirt themselves and to win.
Yeah.
But if you're in the shirt, they want you to do your best. And they just fully support you. And I said there's some goals I scored at the Priestfield. I wouldn't try those shots in training, because I didn't have the belief in myself. They had the belief in me. You know, there's a goal I scored against Luton. I slid in way outside the box in the rain, got up in one step, and I banged the ball in from the touchline at an angle in pouring rain. It bounced and went in. I could not even slide and get up in real life. Away from those fans, me sliding and getting up in one movement could not happen, ever. But in front of those fans, where they gave you belief in yourself, I could do anything. And it's just a lovely place, from the kitman, the groundsman, everybody was wonderful. We used to wait, after the match. It was only a small ground. Fans would stay and talk to my mum at the car. Our parents used to interact with the fan, and the fans are lovely. I found out that there was a dog. I'm really proud of this. A dog called Saba. It was game. It had a proper thump. But someone named their dog after me, and it's just so lovely.
And do you know what, Carl? Just listen to you reminisce about good times at a club, and that's always what's made things special for me about clubs. You have good clubs, you have bad clubs, but the clubs what are really special are the ones what make your family feel welcome, the ones which go the extra mile and talk to you. I fell in love with Cardiff because of how special the people were with me, my family. But not everyone's felt that way about Cardiff City, by the way. There's people who I played with who didn't give me the that feeling when they left, and they told me about their experiences. So I made that decision myself, and it was the best decision I made, because same as when I played for Halifax Town, Middlesbrough was different because that's where I live and I grew up there. So I was always going to have that affiliation with the football club because I supported them as a boy. But when you have that love for a club because of the way that you were treated, your family was treated, how they made you feel as a player, how special you still feel to this day.
Do you not think their fans were like that with you because of how you performed on the pitch?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's how it begins. Everyone goes on about that one goal, but they loved me before that game. So that goal is just penciled in.
Well, I have that here in Sheffield. The fans and the people of Sheffield are so incredible to me. But, if you look at the strikers who came after me, the Beatties, the Ashley Wards, the Akinbayes, they didn't have as much, they're better players. They went on, Addy scored an insane goal away at Hillsborough for the Blades. But the fans they're so lovely to me. And, I think you're just so lucky that if you do connect with fans, and fans actually, at Stoke, I missed maybe 5 or 6 of the easiest. I think it was Rotherham or Doncaster at home. Anyone could have scored. I was almost going to get myself in trouble. Anyone could have scored these chances, but I missed and I missed and I missed, and it got comical. And the fans named me, man of the match for that match, just because of the sheer effort, and just they knew I was trying,
Yeah.
And I think it frustrates fans when you see someone who has got it all, and they don't apply themselves. Whereas with myself, I think they always appreciated. Well, he's not the best. He's not this. He's 6'2" and he jumps 4 foot high. But
sounds like me.
Yeah, he gives everything. And I just think, a lot of it is down to your own application. Fans aren't stupid, and they appreciate people who try for the shirt. And Gillingham fans, Stoke fans, they all appreciated me.
But the thing about football fans, Carl, is the honest, genuine people who like to spend their hard-earned money on people who run about and who can relate to. And you know what I mean? I don't think football is now relatable. You know what I mean? That they don't talk to fans after games because they get their cars parked for them in a car park where fans can't get to them, and there's no atmosphere and no camaraderie between players and fans anymore. You know, and I find that such a shame because when players aren't players anymore, how are they going to be relatable to fans? You know what I mean? Because you're not anything special anymore. When you stop being a player, that minute you stop being a player, I'm not saying you're a nobody, but you know what I mean. You've got to then put yourself in the big, real, wide world and
civilians.
And I think players need to understand that one day they won't be as special as what the pedestal they're on now. And just to understand that, you know what I mean, they'll be a football fan and their children will be football fans, and how will they feel one day if their kids want to talk to a player and he's not approachable because of the same reason? Just be a normal person, because being just a genuine nice person goes a long way. Carl, one game in particular we talked about at Gillingham. One game in particular, Nicky went on about it. Other players have gone on about it. It's one of the most famous playoff finals I've ever watched. It was such a great game for me personally to watch. It was an amazing game. I remember.
We're going to talk about the Charlton-Sunderland game. We're going to talk about that one.
Clive's a North East boy as well, isn't he? Clive's a middle lad. Obviously, you played in one of the infamous one, Man City against Gillingham. Tell us about that, because I think from your point of view, I think you were 2-0 up. You came off, and how did it feel for you being helpless? You know what I mean. So it was obviously different for you as well. So tell us your feelings, your remembrance of it.
Well, of course it was. We couldn't have asked for any more. We messed up. We should have actually got automatic promotion. We had a little bad run, and then we ended up in the playoffs. And the pressure wasn't on us; it was on it's Man City.
Yeah.
It was going to be a sellout. I played at Wembley before, and I knew what to expect. Of course, I didn't know what to expect, because you're in a police convoy this time, because you're playing Man City, and it was the best for me to play in rain. Was the best for me. I didn't like playing in the sun. Everything was set. It was raining.
Just picking up on something you just said there, Carl. You said about police escorts. You said, so how did it feel different then? Did it feel different than the previous time?
This was as big as it came. You didn't feel like you were Carl and Bob and Ash and Smudge from Gillingham. This, you felt, oh Christ, we're actually, we're stars here. Are we're the main event? And it was really okay. This really is. It's very, very, everyone's watching. But I think he called us the eggers, Hugh, because we were just egg. We had nothing flash about us. We just had a go, and it suited us to the ground. That roll up our sleeves. We've got nothing to lose. These have got everything to lose, and it was the perfect day. They missed some chances. They hit the post, and the longer it went on, you felt, well, Bob's got a goal in him. I've got a goal in him. Ash has got a goal. We felt we could get it, and then we scored 2 goals. Bob's goal was just insane.
It was, yeah.
And I came because I'd been carrying an injury, and I knew I was going to have operation, and I was in a bad way. So Pew taking me off at the end wasn't really, he got a lot of stick for that. Why didn't you keep? I was in bits. I was coughing blood. I was bad, but I'm a massive proper car freak. I love my cars, and underneath my inner soul, I had a picture of this car that if we got promotion, I was going to get this car. And Andy Morrison, I really got on well with Jock. He was a honest, good lad. Kicked me all over the park throughout the season. A lot of run-ins. I'm holding up this picture of this car from underneath my bloody inner soul and waving it to him on the bench, saying, I'm going to take you for a drive in this next week. No chance we were going to lose this match. And when they scored, I couldn't. It doesn't happen. It can't happen. It's our day. Their fans have gone. Look, just blow the whistle. The fans have given up. And when that equaliser went in, it was the worst moment. Just for everybody from Gillingham was there. My family, it was our day, and they robbed it. They were better players. Their team was much better than our team, but we deserved that. And it was just the poor boys. I felt sorry for the lads who took the penalties because I was off the pitch. I would have taken the penalty.
Yeah.
And you're asking people who aren't always, taking penalties or are used to goal opportunities to do a job that you should be doing. And I felt really sad that I couldn't take a penalty. And those lads will live with those penalty misses and blame themselves when it wasn't, they were absolute stars to actually pick the ball up. Because have you done that, Andy? Have you picked the ball up and walked?
Yeah, I've missed my fair share. I missed my fair share in some big games as well.
That's
It's awful
one
feeling,
hell of a feeling. Jelly legs. I've never missed a penalty in a match before, but picking a ball up and walking. I missed one for Reading in a cup competition in a shootout. Completely different kettle of fish, to having a penalty in the 6-yard box and just putting the ball out. Walking from the halfway line is the longest walk.
Yeah,
and those lads had to do it. So it was
sorry, Carl. I shouldn't interrupt you, mate. There's you two former professional footballers talk about penalties and stuff. I only ever missed one penalty in a competitive football match. I was making my debut in a cup semi-final for Highcroft in Cardiff. Only like a Cardiff Combinations league side, and I wasn't, because I had played well in the game. It was a penalty shootout. I'd taken quite a lot of penalties before, and I'd never missed. So I literally, in my first game, some of these people had never met me before, and I kind of was doing like some keepy ups as I walked from the halfway line. Nothing in my head where I was going to miss this penalty, and I missed it. And I retired from football straight after that.
Listen, I remember when Cardiff's history with Leeds United at Ninian Park. I missed the worst penalty ever. Neil Sullivan but to put his cap on it. It was the worst penalty I've ever taken. I didn't even want to take the penalty.
For my county, Neil Sullivan.
Yeah, Neil's a top man. Neil's a top man. But to be honest, I do wish he just caught it with both hands instead of making it look better than what it was. He dropped it in front of him and it made it look a little bit better than what it was. And I blame my eldest daughter in a way, because she was born the day before, and I was so tired. I wasn't mentally right to probably. But when you've got a bit of confidence, a bit of arrogance, that you pick the ball up and you think, I'm just going to put it down. This is for her. I didn't think of anything else, and instead of putting my laces through it, I just decided to side foot it, and I must have told him where it was going to go, because everything just went in slow motion, and it couldn't have been a worse game against the worst team at the worst time, drew 0-0, and it was just it's that time.
You blame her for that penalty miss?
So that's her fault. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's her fault, isn't it? Everything's kid's fault, isn't it? But yeah, it's just. But I just remember, don't you, that you feel as though you let people down, don't you? You know what I mean? That you make the decision to try and step up for the team, but then I remember sitting in the changing room and we drew 0-0, and it's like a defeat. It's like my fault, and you're thinking, you're just waiting for someone to say, "Don't worry, Cams, it's all right. Next one," or something. No one ever said it. He's just not saying next one.
I never missed one in a match. Only in that one shootout, and we won the shootout. So I never had that feeling of, well, I missed a lot of chances in my career. I've let a lot of people down a lot of times, but not from the spot.
It's just the joys of being a footballer, isn't it? You know what I mean? It'd be boring, wouldn't it, if you weren't missing chances and getting slagged off on the radio and stuff. It'd be great. That's why we've talked about social media side, haven't we, about things, and I'm so glad, because things like that penalty miss, it hasn't even found its way on YouTube, which is great. You know what I mean? Because nobody can ever remind you of it, which is fab. But then you don't get some of the good moments from your career, which you try to find and stuff. Which, you know what I mean? Sometimes you take the good with the bad, but even the bad memories are memories which other people would love. You know what I mean? Because you managed to get that blue shirt on, you managed to run through a brick wall for that football club and have the feeling they're wearing and playing in a big game. Which, you know what I mean? For me, that's the thing about doing it.
Those comments the other week about a rainy night away at Stoke, I found that some of the worst things I've ever heard, because for me, I grew up wanting to play football any ground under floodlights in the English league, and for someone to say, "Oh, we wanted to play Barcelona every week," obviously you want to play away at Stoke. I've never been so offended.
Yeah.
That's the worst comment I've ever heard in football, away from racism or horrible things about people's family. About actual sport, that's just dismissing all our hopes and dreams of being a child. I've got 2 boys. They'd love to play football. And this man is saying he wouldn't go to away at Stoke. Like it's the end of the earth.
But it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful about areas, isn't it? I know we laugh and joke about obviously Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough got voted the second worst town in the world, well, in the country. But
that's Phil Whelan and Mark Whelan. Remember, it would have been much better without them.
It's their fault. So if they weren't there, they might have gone on the list about to 10th or 9th or 10th.
Easy.
There you go. That's their fault. But I just find it so disrespectful, though, because Stoke always gets that comment, and we're not on about football, are we? We're on about areas now. You know what I mean? So, and I just don't get it. You know what I mean? That the Burnleys, the Stokes, and those the areas and the grounds which people don't find fashionable or places to go and play football. Don't slag areas off just because, you know what I mean? Manchester has the worst weather in England. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. But because they've got the 2 best grounds and the 2 best teams in the world, or in England, they don't get slagged off as much. But because Stoke gets a little bit of a ribbon because of the way and probably the way that Tony's had them playing, you know what I mean? That's not being disrespectful. Be respectful for the team and the results that they had, because they won games.
There's only a handful of people in the country who could play to Tony. For that
totally
team with Peter Crouch, Michael, are you sure? I could never get in that team. So he's actually telling the people like myself who've given all their life. I've had about 11 operations that. I really don't care for anyone who's as crap as you. And I'm better. I was better than half of the people who played. How disgusting is that? I don't think we should have owners like that. It's the game. There's enough money in the game. We don't need that sort of person.
But if they're saying that in public, what are they saying in private, mate?
Well, we had this debate aside, didn't we? We had this debate about owners on. I'm sure it was last Monday's show. On the Monday before, wasn't it? About a way to get owners from this country back involved, so people know the system, people know the areas, people have a passion about it. Because run about United, owners who don't even enter this country. They don't care about the club. They don't care about the area. They don't care about the communities. You know what I mean? It's all about the dollar. It's all about this. It's all about that.
Sheffield Wednesday, one of our biggest clubs in the country. When I was growing up, it was one of the biggest clubs in the country, and it's a disgrace. It should the Premier League and the Football League should be in charge of finding the right owners. That they vet for embezzlement and for money laundering. Just check them out that they actually care. There's people at Sheffield Wednesday who are going to lose their jobs. Parking attendants. You've got people, admin staff. The people abroad who are worried about sacking Pulis and paying Pulis £1 million. They don't care about the normal staff. But if we had proper vetting of the owners and tie them in to do certain obligations to the area, and you've got to have a ground at a certain standard, and you've got to employ this many local people, I just think it's really losing its way.
I totally, absolutely. We've said the same things. It's an absolute joke. It's a travesty, though, the way that football's gone. You know what I mean? We talk, and what I don't want people to do is people to think that because the money's not involved, it's jealousy. It's not a case of being jealous. I live the dream. I live my own dream and more. Completely. I couldn't have imagined my career being any better, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't play less games for more money. I would, I represented the team that I always wanted to play for. I left that team and had an amazing life, met some amazing people. And all of this, what I'm doing now on the show, meeting people like you and doing the show, and obviously meeting Si was great. And doing all this is because of the career what I had, and I would never change it for the world. You know what I mean? You look at people who give their opinions on Sky and on BT and on TalkSport and on all these other platforms. Doesn't mean anything apart from it's their own opinion. You know what I mean? That Graham Souness said some really strange comments last weekend at the game that got cancelled. You know what I mean? You see other pundits giving their opinion about their favourite teams. It's good to watch because
lazy punditry, mate.
It's some of them are, but it's, you know what I mean, the best ones are the ones who have that they have the bounce off each other. The Jamie Redknapp's and the Micah Richards, the Jamie Carragher's and the Gary Nevilles. You know what I mean? The ones who we can watch who don't really get on, who have. Yeah. chalk and cheese. They're the ones that you want to hear. They're the ones that you want to see. And if it wasn't for those
Well,
kind of
Gary
guys,
Neville's
it'd be boring.
incredible.
He's out of this world. Out of this world.
So much sense, and he's biased, Manu, but he only wants the right stuff. He's looking at it from the right perspective. He watches a match and he knows when someone's hiding from the ball. He knows everything, and he's one of the best pundits we've ever had. He's just brilliant.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
He's
totally
and all
agree.
those people, Andy, which you just mentioned, like you're right completely about the way they bounce off each other, the banter, but they also, there's two things which really stand out. They regularly disagree, but they will always give their honest opinion, even if it goes against the rest of the people in the room, the pundits in the room, or because when I say lazy punditry, like I know Jamie Carragher said something similar the other week. Like, I can't stand when you've got a pundit on the radio or the TV or whatever, and they're asked for their opinion on subject X, whatever, or a subject, or even just the game they've watched, and they sit on the fence. That just bugs me. Like, just, you're there to give analysis, or you're there to give an opinion, so give it. And it's just, I find it incredibly frustrating.
No, it is. Obviously, we're going to finish off with some questions, Carl, from the live viewers. But I've got one more question, and my question is your transition out of football. So, my biggest bugbear at the minute is the level of support from the governing bodies, certain governing bodies, of the transition out of football for players. You know what I mean? There's a lot of players with mental health problems. A lot of players who, unfortunately, have committed suicide because if they're worried or if there's things with the transition. How was your transition? And did you get any support from anybody?
Well, it was difficult for me in that I retired because of injury. So football just stopped dead for me. I was offered 6 months at Leicester, and when you're offered 6 months, your time's up. And I didn't want to waste my time or their time, and the stigma and the mental pain of being injured. It's horrible. And I thought, well, if they're offering me 6 months, they know I'm going to break down. I probably know I'm going to break down. Let's call it quits. But football is all I've ever wanted to do. From when I was a kid, I'd go out. You have a bad day, you play football. You have a good day, you play football. Then you go through a career of everything was football to it ending through injury. So that's my outlet. If I have a bad day, I can't go out and play a football match, because I would love to play Sunday football, because playing on the park and scoring a goal, I play with my kids now, and I try and score past my 7-year-old because I love scoring. And I found that really hard to deal with, that my outlet has gone. Fans, their outlet is going to watch their team. And they love football. We all love football. Fans love it. Stewards love it. Refs love it. But my role in that love was to play. And I just wanted to play at whatever level. I would have enjoyed carrying on just to play on a Sunday. So that's where I found the transition hard. And the way I dealt with it was I completely cut it out of my life. I didn't watch a match for 2 or 3 years. I didn't speak about football. I was telling them, I hate this, I hate that, because that's the only way I could cope. I don't need football. And I had to blank it out because it hurt me so much. That was my identity. So how good's Carl? How's Carl's standard of living? How's Carl as a person? It was judged as a footballer, and it had gone. So it is a very hard transition. You're so lucky, to play football, everything, but to then have it taken away, because it is going to go, it is very hard to come to terms with. And we've seen some incredible people like Gaza. Gaza was playing until whatever, because it's what you do. And I don't know if there's an easy way. I know we blame the PFA, don't do this, they don't do that. The players should be able to adapt because they're earning all this money. I don't know if you can ever help. You can help them a little bit, but it's all that person, because the mental side of not being able to do what you love is really, really hard. And it's for me. I then went into cars because I love cars, and I was lucky to have a car bit. And my contacts in football, I was able to help them, and it kept me a sort of, I knew and I kept in touch with the people who I was close with. But the transition is something that I think everybody is going to be different, completely different for each person. And personally, it was very, very hard for me. And I miss it every day. I watch my children's football, and I look on with envy because they're the best times. Playing football with your mates, it doesn't get better than that.
No, listen, I totally agree. I totally know what you're talking about. The feeling of one day you're a player, the next you're not, is just, it reminisces with me totally. And it's heartbreaking that people are going through that every day. Especially this time of the year, there's that kind of, it might be a contract end, it might be that you're told you're not going to get another contract, it might be that you're just getting too old and you realise that you can't do it. It might be injury, it might be something else, but it's such a shame. I know there's loads of support out now. There's clubs that support players, which is great. The PFA. I'm probably going back into 96, 97 when I first came out. That I would have loved someone to probably come to the club and just tell players what the options are. When you're 18-year-old, that you might get released and you might never be a professional footballer again. That you might have to go and get a normal job. Yeah,
Andy, they're the people who I've cried. I've cried when I found out. You used to have apprentices, and they're bright and bushy-tailed, and they get your boots, and they do, and then at 18 they get told that's it, you're done,
game over.
And it's like that's more cruel than a 34-year-old who's retiring at the end of a career and, oh, woe is me, I can't kick a ball. These young lads get an insight. They can see it firsthand, just how brilliant it must be to play on that pitch. They're close. They're the ones who need the counselling. They're the ones who should get some form of re-education grants, not the players who, almost swore again, wasted all the money that they lost through their career, who want a benevolence fund because they spent it all on going here and buying that. These young kids who are used by football clubs because they're only trying to get one or two to sell them for 5 million. They're the ones whose lives and hopes and dreams are shattered. My younger brother was he came to Sheffield United with me. And when he didn't get kept on and he came to start and he didn't get, that's the saddest bit for me because that's all he wanted to do was to play. And they're the ones who then have to build a life doing something else that, my uncle doesn't know how good to be a footballer would be because he hasn't seen the other side of the door. But my brother has, and my apprentice has. They're the ones who I think need more help, not the 35-year-old. We've got to get on with it. We're older, and we've got money and resources and memories to look back on to get us through. These youngsters need more help than us.
No, I totally agree. And
often those boys have been there from a young age as well, and they've been built up from, like, say, the age of 6, told how good they are, and when you get to the youth team, this is what you'll be doing, and then when they get to 16, it's like, oh yeah, right.
But then, Si, I blame this under-23 league for this as well. You know what I mean? Because players and clubs keep players for even longer without playing a first-team game. Players can get to 20, 21, 22, 23 even without kicking a first-team ball. Then all of a sudden they get released, and these guys won't be on mega money. These kind of lads, and all of a sudden they're not getting a League One, League Two, a National League club because they haven't played a first-team game. They haven't played men's football. They've played non-competitive football all their lives. So how on earth are they going to be ready to go into a competitive system? They're not. So clubs are failing people. Players are getting failed by the system. You know what I mean? By clubs who need to run squads.
Re-educate them? What's then
there's nothing.
Re-educate these 22-year-olds where the friends who have gone out to be solicitors and accountants at the age of 16 are way up the ladder. These young lads, it must be just crushing.
It's got to be heartbreaking because these guys have been to college. They've probably got a degree. You know what I mean? So they're 5 years behind everybody else. And you can't catch 5 years up in education because you've got to do the time. You've got to do the 2-year course in college. You've got to do a 3-year degree. And then if you want to top it up with other things. It's so it's dog eat dog, and you know what I mean. Clubs and you know what I mean. Listen, when I was at YTS, I went to college one day a week. It was I think it was a BTEC qualification. It was great fun. I think everyone failed it because we just messed around. But it wasn't taken seriously by anybody else who demanded it. You know, we didn't. If we turned up, we had fun. If we didn't turn up, we didn't get told off. If we failed it, we didn't get told off. We didn't get dropped for not doing what we should. I think there's got to be things put in place which stops that element of players not doing it. You know what I mean? For me, every young player in the Premier League should do a online degree qualification or get put into it. You know what I mean? Instead of getting a signing on fee, for example, the club pays for their qualification. So already they're giving them something to fall back on if they're ever not a player, and they've always got that piece of paper to fall back on. And it would be an unbelievable system, because for a club, it's nothing. It's peanuts. They also get the link with the university or college or local education.
Surely
there's
got to be a job at each club for 18-year-old, you know, wanting £150 a week or so to reintegrate them into their next part, instead of just all right, you're done.
Yeah. Well, someone might do a qualification in marketing, so there might be an ex-player who's played for the club for 5 years, and all of a sudden he's got a degree in marketing, and he want to go and work for the club, and who's the best person to go and work? Surely it's that boy, because he knows the club inside out, he's got a passion for the club, he's got the qualifications, so he's all singing, all dancing. But clubs can't just give a job out to somebody who's unqualified, and I think people are getting failed, and it's the players predominantly who are getting failed. We'll talk about players getting paid good money. Yes, they do get paid good money when you're a top player, but not every footballer is a £1 million footballer. It's just not. It's not Royal Rovers stuff, unfortunately.
100%. Okay, this subject is a sad subject to finish on, but I apologise for that. But it kind of follows on a little bit from what we've just been talking about. But just before I make mention of it, no plugs or anything to end the show, guys. You know where to find us. Please do find us. Please spread the word. A big thank you to Carl and Andy, of course. And I just wanted to pay tribute really to James Dean, a 35-year-old ex-footballer. He played for Stalybridge Celtic, Chorley, Halifax Town. He went missing 4 days ago, and unfortunately they found his body, I think it was yesterday. So big, condolences to everyone involved, his friends, his families, the clubs that he's played for, his former teammates. I know there's been a big outpouring of sadness, about that. It's just a...
I know. I knew him from Halifax days, and I met him. Obviously, I left Halifax, and he joined the new regime at Halifax, and what a lovely guy. You know what I mean? He was a gentle giant, big in stature, centre forward, scored loads of goals. And then I kept in touch with him when he signed for Chorley and when he signed for the clubs, and I think he went to Ashton United and things, and a few clubs in the Manchester area. And listen, it's happening inside too many times. We're on about that transition out of the game. We're on about people not being able to handle COVID, handle the pressure of family, handle the pressure of life without football. And this is just another example that, you know what I mean, that people, you know what I mean, there's loads of ex-teammates and lads that I know who are just asking people, just they're there to help, you know what I mean. Our direct messages are open, mine are, my social media. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, please do, because if we can help anybody and help people cope with things better, if that's private life, if that's family, if that's football, if that's just anybody who's struggling in things, that I've had a couple of conversations over the last couple of days with people who come on this show, who I help and I've helped this week, and I'll continue to do so, because it's not a job, it's not a chore. I enjoy it, because if people are reaching out to me, then I'm doing something right, you know what I mean, and I'm saying the right things, and if I'm saying the right things, then I'll continue to do so, because remotely they're helping me, because life's not good for everybody, you know what I mean. I've gone through a lot in the last 3 years personally, and there's people who are helping me, and I reach out to people, so you know what I mean, don't be embarrassed to reach out to somebody and ask for help, because everybody needs it.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Couldn't have said it better myself. And guys, as ever, I always enjoy seeing all you guys interact in the comments and stuff and supporting each other. That's something which I am very proud that we've built on the channel and the show. But ultimately, until people really talk about stuff and help each other. That's how we're going to make the change that's needed. Carl, thank you very much for your time, mate. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Honesty, Carl. Listen, your honesty is absolutely amazing. Hence why you were so successful in your football career. Love the way that you talked about with so much passion how you dodged a few bullets along the way, which is great. Loved the show, mate. It's been one of my favourites, and I'm not just saying that because you're on. It was absolutely amazing, and please keep in touch.
My cousin Frankie Whelan, he's at Middlesbrough, he's in the under-18s, and he's defying logic of having his parents. He's actually doing so well despite his gene pool. You know, we're all so proud of you, Frankie. You just keep pushing.
Keep going, Frankie, because I've seen you play, and I didn't know you were Carl's family. So I will continue. Well, I'll watch again when I'm allowed, because I haven't seen you for a while. But I'll continue to watch. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Spread the word, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Take care.
Cheers,
My
guys.
mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.